He comes from a very tough place, and he's a tough guy. I liked him. We've all had rough pasts. And I think, frankly, if you didn't have a rough past, you wouldn't have a chance.
From wanted terrorist to White House guest, Syria's Ahmed Al-Sharaa shakes hands with Donald Trump. A meeting once unthinkable, now reality. Trump calls him a tough guy and promises support as Washington lifts sanctions and rewrites alliances in a stunning Middle East reversal. US President Donald Trump has committed full support for Syria's success following landmark talks with Syrian President Ahmed Al-Sharaa, marking an extraordinary diplomatic pivot for a leader who, until recently, carried a $10 million American bounty as a designated foreign terrorist.
Well, I've had an agreement with him. He's a very strong leader. He comes from a very tough place, and he's a tough guy. I liked him. I get along with him, the new president of Syria. And we'll do everything we can to make Syria successful, because that's part of the Middle East.
The historic White House meeting of the first ever visit by a Syrian president to Washington capped a stunning year for the rebel-turned ruler who toppled longtime autocratic leader Bashar al-Assad and has since travelled the world seeking to portray himself as a moderate leader committed to unifying his war-ravaged nation. In an unusually subdued welcome, Al-Sharaa, a former al-Qaeda commander, arrived without the typical fanfare accorded foreign dignitaries. He entered through a side door, where reporters caught only a glimpse, rather than through the West Wing's main entrance, where cameras traditionally captured Trump greeting visiting leaders.
You know, Syria is a very big part of the Middle East, very important part. If you look back at Syria, for years they had the doctors, the lawyers, they had so many of the great intellects. It's an amazing place with great people, and we want to see Syria be successful along with the rest of the Middle East. So I have confidence that he'll be able to do the job, absolutely.
The visit came just days after Washington removed Al-Sharaa's terrorist designation and 6 months after the leaders' initial meeting in Saudi Arabia, where Trump first announced plans to lift sanctions. One of Sharaa's chief aims in Washington was to push for full removal of the toughest US sanctions. While he met with Trump behind closed doors, the US Treasury Department announced a 100 to 80-day extension of its suspension of enforcement of the so-called Caesar sanctions, but only the US Congress can lift them entirely. Promising continued sanctions relief, the Treasury Department announced a new order to replace its May 23rd waiver on enforcement of the 2019 Caesar Act, which imposed sweeping sanctions over human rights abuses under Assad. Following the closed-door discussions, Trump hinted at forthcoming developments regarding Syria.
Yeah, you can expect some announcements on Syria. We want to see Syria become a country that's very successful, and I think this leader can do it. I really do. I think this leader can do it. And people said he's had a rough past. We've all had rough pasts. But he has had a rough past, and I think, frankly, if you didn't have a rough past, you wouldn't have a chance.